All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Wegner. I'm getting things set up. We'll join and get started here in about 2 minutes. So thanks for joining us. We'll get started here in a couple minutes. All right, thanks for joining, everybody. I think we are live and ready to go. So thanks for jumping on. My name is Robert Wegner. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for BW&CO. We are a full-service grant writing firm based here in Houston, Texas. And today we'll be going over the new Department of War solicitation that was published Wednesday of last week for fiscal year 26, release number 5. And really looking at two major sections in this. Section number 1 is going to be around the topics that are included within this Department of War mechanism. And Section 2 is in regards to applying for the mechanism there. So I believe everyone should be able to see my screen here. It should be sharing. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and you can put them in the Q&A function here on Zoom. If you're joining us on LinkedIn, I'll be monitoring questions on LinkedIn a little bit later in the Q&A section of the call, so happy for you guys to submit it there. But I'm very excited to have this conversation and go over this topic with you guys all here. Let me know if anything is not showing up correctly, but we'll go ahead and dive in and get started here. So jump into this next slide here. So here's what I hope to accomplish in the session. Let me get this properly formatted here. There we go. So here's what I hope to accomplish. So we're going to accomplish a number of things is my intention here. Starting with primarily going over the topics here at a glance and seeing what's all involved in this release number 5 from the Department of War, specifically through SBIR and STTR mechanisms, and then jumping into the landscape of the technology that's required and sought out in these solicitations, the best way for you to be able to find your fit and your lane, what it looks like to apply, and then the next steps for submitting an application to these opportunities. Everything is going to be set up in such a way for you guys to have the information necessary from the call today, as well as finding the ways to get more information from Department of War in their innovations portal for you guys to be able to submit at the September 23rd deadline. So we'll go ahead and jump in. So at a glance, we have 51 different topics discussed in this release number 5. This ranges from different components or different groups that are publishing these. You'll see Air Force, Navy, DARPA, DTRA, DMEA. DTRA I've got here as the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and they have a focus on counter weapons of mass destruction. And then DMEA, Defense Microelectronics Activity covers trusted and flexible microelectronics as well. And so there's 44 different SBIR topics, and I'll get into the differences between SBIR and STTR later on in the presentation. But just note, for majority of these, an academic partner is not required, but you could apply as a sole proprietor or, as a sole individual company pursuing these applications directly. All of these are going to have the same deadline for September 23rd. And noon on Eastern time, September 23rd is that official deadline for you to submit the application. And they're all going to follow similar deadlines for when the Q&A submissions are due, when you can reach out to the technical point of contacts, and so on and so forth. So before we look at these topics, here's why this is worth your attention. First, these programs are on solid footing, which hasn't always been the case. So SBIR and STTR programs lapse back at the end of September 2025, or near the end of 2025. And there was real uncertainty for about 6 months on whether this program was going to be reauthorized and how it was going to be reauthorized. However, on April 13th, 2026, the reauthorization was signed, extending both of these programs through 2031. So for the next, as of today, up for the next 5 years, these programs are reauthorized. So ground is stable, and it's stable for years, not just the next couple of months. Secondly, the lapse created what we would see as a backlog for these opportunities. So new awards were paused during the gap, and agencies are now working through all of these mechanisms. That is why a part of why we see the fiscal year 26 release calendar is so full, and unobligated fiscal year 26 dollars can also carry in to fiscal year 27, which enlarges the pool. Third, if you're going to learn one agency, the Department of War is the highest leverage choice, mainly for the reason that it has broad dual-use technologies that are requested across the board, and it has the most amount of funding, which is about half of the SBIR funding is dedicated to Department of War mechanisms. The releases come from Air Force, Navy, and DARPA, and in this particular one through DTRA and DMEA. However, other opportunities and programs, the Defense Logistic Agency as well as Defense Health Agency, both use this program for different release functions as well. And this is not a one-off. Release 5 is the 5th of 6 releases that will take place this fiscal year, and Release 6 is right behind it. These are published on the first Wednesday of each and every month, and has been the case since reauthorization. So if a topic is here, and it's close but not perfect, the cadence means that another shot is typically coming, and let's go ahead and jump into those topics. So this is the landscape, and this is really where I want to spend a good bit of time talking about these different opportunities. So if you are innovating in a space in your technology development, like advanced materials, AI, ML, defense, cybersecurity, quantum, human performance, whatever the case may be, this is just kind of a high-level overview and summary of these pieces. And the short story is the 2 densest lanes are going to be advanced materials and manufacturing, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, with about 11 topics each. Right behind them is going to be a broad defense tech and dual use bucket covering radar, electronic warfare, directed energy, weapons integration, and assured positioning and timing. At 9, at 9 different topics. Robotics and autonomy has about 6 different opportunities, and then quantum, photonics, cybersecurity all follow suit shortly thereafter. So all of these are going to be highly specific requests from Department of War for specific specifications, deliverables, and oftentimes you'll see all of those in the solicitation itself. If there's any clarity, we'll talk about how to get that through the Q&A deadline that's coming up. But I want you to kind of put yourself into one of these categories from an industry perspective. And I'm going to list a few of these different topics. If you're joining us on Zoom, you'll see the link posted to our website, which is the Release 5 website, for all the executive summaries for these. You can also view these through DSIP, and the topic numbers are going to be listed here, and these are going to be used as an example in this. So feel free to kind of keep an ear out for your technology topic area, and then follow some of these specific opportunities that seem like a really good fit for you in particular. So starting off with the broadest group of defense tech and dual use, this is where we see radar, electronic warfare, directed energy, weapons integration, and assured positioning and timing all live. 9 topics land here as the primary home, and several more touch it as well. A few of these are specific to the F-16 and F-35 agnostic rapid weapons integration topics. These are about making it faster and cheaper to certify new weapons onto existing platforms, a huge sustainment pain point within the military. There's also a directed energy topic focused on real-time fine tracking, meaning keeping a beam locking on a moving target. On the sensing side, you have joint radar and communication waveforms, a distributed swarm radar concept, and a Navy STTR and detecting low probability of intercept radar using cognitive techniques on an FPGA mechanism. And NAVWAR also has a unified assured positioning, navigation, and timing topic for operating when GPS is denied. So high level, if your company does anything in the RF, signals, apertures, beam control, or resilient navigation, this is a slide that would be helpful for you to review, and you can dive into these specific topics that are listed here. It also has the most dual use. So if you are hardware and algorithm team, you can fit here as well. Moving secondly into artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is tied for the second largest lane with 11 topics. This is a software heavy area, which is good news if you don't do any hardware. So there is an Air Force topic on brain inspired neural architectures that run at low size, weight, and power, which is intelligence at the edge on constrained platforms. NAVC wants to accelerate model-based systems engineering with AI. DARPA has semantically aware ISR, teaching systems to understand the content of what sensors see, not just detect. The Navy also has an edge-deployed explainable digital twin for condition-based maintenance on carrier systems, and explainability is doing real work in that title. They want models a maintainer can trust. There's a radar data compression topic that uses machine learning to move sensor data more efficiently. And DARPA has the speed dial program on the bottom right here, essentially using AI to discover new algorithms and architectures. Throughout all of this, the department is not asking for AI in the abstract. Every one of these ties a model to a specific mission, defense mission need, or problem. If you frame your capability against a specific one of these missions, you're going to be competitive. Moving on to the next section, robotics and autonomous systems. This also has, I believe, 6 topics associated with it as well. And so there's one for architecture platform for underwater vehicles aimed at rapid adaptation, collaborative sensing, navigation, and autonomy. So think modular unmanned undersea. And a topic on commercializing ultra-high payload to weight drone subsystems carrying more with less airframe. I'll mention this one on the top right. This ultra-high payload to weight UAS subsystems is, from what we've seen, in response directly to the DARPA Lift Challenge, which is, I think, recently completed with individual companies presenting their solutions over the weekend. So if you or someone in your network is a part of the DARPA Lift Challenge, this would be one in particular that would be interesting to pursue. It's about a $2 million direct to phase 2, largely focused on commercializing the technology. From the Navy, we also see automated post-mission debrief and replanning for collaborative air combat aircraft, the loyal wingman concept, and a persistent non-destructive inspection system for foreign object debris on airfields, which is really an autonomous inspection robotics platform. The Air Force has an automated lethality topic. This award area rewards teams that own an autonomy stack or robotic subsystem, especially if you can plug into an open architecture rather than a closed proprietary one. And notice the recurring words throughout this: open, collaborative, modular. If your system is closed and monolithic, you will need to speak to how it interoperates. Moving into advanced materials and manufacturing, a very large group within these different solicitations. So this is the deepest tech lane in this release, very hardware and physics focused. So as a sample, the Air Force has a direct to phase 2 topic on high voltage radiation hardened power switches for space power and propulsion. And this is a direct to phase 2, which is larger funds. We'll talk about here then in a second. There's also a high temperature semiconductor transistor topic for hot environments in electronic warfare. A topic on cost-effective composite joints with tailorable performance. DMEA wants additive manufacturing for flexible electronics. The Navy needs nanocrystalline electromagnetic interference filters for aerospace. And there are several topics here as well. These topics tend to want demonstrated science and a path to manufacturability. So lean into your data and your process, not just the concept itself. We've got 4 topics around quantum and photonics. The Air Force wants, in particular, an ultra-sensitive quantum telemetry receiver, quantum sensing applied to reading signals others can't. There's a Navy STTR for a compact, efficient, high-energy pulse laser, which feeds directed energy. On imaging, a topic on co-packaging digital readout integrated circuits with photonics for advanced infrared imaging, and another STTR on high-throughput wafer-scale manufacturing of achromatic infrared meta optics, making exotic flat optics at production volume. So notice that the 2 of these 4 are STTRs, meaning that you will have, it's going to require a university or nonprofit research partner to submit for those applications. So flag that internally if you are in that area. We've got 3 in regards to cybersecurity from Department of Air Force and Navy. Air Force has a dynamic open system enclave topic about securely isolating and managing workloads on open systems. The Navy has the Citadel program, which is a cross-domain interface for trusted access and data exchange. The classic hard problem of moving data safely between classification levels or networks. In Olympus, which is this last one on the bottom here, an open layered modular platform for unified systems, a secured architecture play. The pattern is with that the department is not shopping for another scanner or endpoint product. They want architecture. That's a really important key, that they're looking for architecture systems here. How you enforce trust, how you move data across boundaries, how you keep an open system secure without locking into something rigid. So at the end of the day, if you're working in cybersecurity and you are doing cross-domain solutions, zero trust design, or secure data fabrics, this is in particular should be of interest to you. On a practical note, some of these DOW topics now carry cybersecurity maturity model certification requirements, or CMMC. We'll talk about that here in a second as well. We've got 2 in the clean tech and energy space. These are relatively small categories as we get into the next 2, but you'll see that Department of Navy in particular has one for innovative flexible fuel cell design. And then Navy also has another one for lightweight modular fuel cell systems for UAS. That is an STTR topic. Again, you would need an academic partner. So these 2 topics with a specific named need are often better odds than a crowded area because fewer teams will have exactly the right technology. And the second one crosses into autonomy, the drone endurance program. So an energy team with an autonomy angle here has a strong study or a strong focus. Technology area 8 is biotech and chemical and biological defense. 2 topics, but genuinely frontier kind of opportunities. DARPA has a topic on universal cell culture platform for rapidly establishing species agnostic cell lines with autonomous cultural operations. In plain terms, for a person like me, a system that can grow many kinds of cells with minimal human tending, a biomanufacturing and lab automation problem as much as a biology one. And DTRA has a topic on novel technologies for countering weapons of mass destruction and related threats, spanning detection, characterization, and response for chemical and biological hazards. This is an area for synthetic biology, bioprocessing, lab automation, and threat detection teams. It is a smaller footprint, but the DARPA and DTRA names tell you that these are high priorities and well-researched problems. If you're a biotech founder wondering whether defense funding is for you, these could be 2 entry points that would be of high interest, I should say. Health and human performance, there are 3 topics here. There is a topic on intelligent tools for naval air crews performance and readiness, which is the human performance analytics, a wearable real-time command and control interface for naval situational awareness, a human-machine interface and wearable problem, and a topic on dynamically generated articulated 3-dimensional training content, which is extended reality and procedural content generation for training. So this is for health tech, wearables, human factors, XR, VR integration as well with this last topic. And this is real money for the technologies that keep people healthy, aware, and well-trained. So if your product touches human performance, physiological monitoring, or simulation and training, you belong in this release, even if you've never thought of being a defense contractor in this mechanism. So in summary, from the first part of this section, which is just what opportunities are available, there are 51 in total. Didn't want to spend all of time walking through each executive summary. You can do that on our website, which is linked here on Zoom, and I'll link elsewhere as well. But essentially, find your lane and your technology topic area and find an executive summary that you guys can plug into. All of them are going to be very specific in the type of deliverable that they're looking for. And generally speaking, we have a lot of questions from companies as we're evaluating these of, these seem very specific in their request. Do they already have somebody named in the solicitation that is looking to apply for this and probably is the most likely winner of the solicitation? And in some cases, that may be the case where at the Department of Navy, let's say, Navy has an idea of a company that they want to work with for a particular opportunity. They write the specifications, and this is kind of the general bid process for seeing if there's anybody else with similar capabilities that can also solve this defense mission need. And from the groups that we've had these topics seeded for, we've seen that they've gone through the competitive bid process and ultimately been the winner through phase 1, and it goes down through phase 2 and phase 3 for integration into, in that case, the Navy. We've also seen uprooted seeded opportunities where a group that wasn't thought of ended up being the better fit. So in short, if you are able to accomplish these capabilities and you're confident in your ability to solve these problems, this is going to be one of the better chances outside of the general BAAs or CSOs outside the SBIR program for you to apply for and to be a fit. So at the end of the day, I would encourage you to apply if you feel confident in your ability to do the R&D and commercialization. So this is part 2, and I'm going to keep this practical and honest because most of you guys are, and individuals that are on the call here, are probably pretty fluent with SBIRs and not needing some of the marketing version of this type of material. So I'm going to cover 5 main sections today: how the commercial solutions opening model works and why it's faster than a traditional solicitation, the timeline, the phase and funding structure, including a new award category, who's eligible, the registrations you must have in place before you can submit an application. And then we'll talk about whether the runway is realistic for you to pursue for the September 23rd deadline. So this is the typical mechanism that we see SBIR following for Department of War, where it's released or in pre-release, so to speak, on the first Wednesday of the month. August 5th is when this one came available about 5 days ago. And it runs all the way up until August 26th until it opens, and then Q&A closes September 9th, and then the 23rd is the deadline here. So a few pieces around this. This is a CSO that's authorized under 10 USC 3458 and is faster and more commercial than a traditional broad agency announcement. It lets the department buy the full spectrum of research and development, including prototype and demonstration work, and treat the results as commercial items. Awards are typically firm fixed price. And so let's look at the schedule here. I have 4 dates on the matter. The pre-release is August 5th, as I mentioned. The window between August 5th and in this case, August 26th is really underused from our experience. While the topics are in pre-release, the topic authors, their names, phone numbers, and emails are posted, and you can contact them directly. So just to be clear, if you were to go through DSIP, find the specific topic that you are a fit for, you should see the TPOC or the author's name, their email, their phone number posted where you can reach out to them directly. Now, this is very important, but you want to keep those questions to understanding the requirements, making sure that you understand what they're looking for and not just general advice about how you should apply for the solution. So you may not ask for advice on your solution approach, but once these topics open, that direct line closes and all other questions move to the Q&A. So in between, if you're looking at the slide, in between sections 1 and 2, which is where we are right now, up until August 26th, you can reach out directly. August 26th hits, now it's an open stage and you have to use the Q&A portal between August 26th and September 9th. Okay, so that's a very important piece. If you're looking, obviously these solicitations have quite a bit of detail that's in the solicitation itself, but there are going to be pieces that you may not fully grasp, or that would be helpful for you to understand to really make sure that you're aligning with the funding agency, now is the best time to get started in pursuing those. So if you miss any of this, there is an expected release 6, which will happen at the first Wednesday of September. And then we'll follow a pretty similar kind of 6-week deadline for in October on 21st. So always confirm the dates and any topic-specific instructions on DSIP topic page, because component instructions can deviate from the general schedule. So let's talk about the differences between SBIR and STTR. So the practical difference is partnership and work share. So on SBIR, on the left-hand side here, your company does the work, and subcontractors and anyone else that's seen as internal. The rule that trips people up is that work share. Your small business must perform at least 2/3 of phase 1 and at least half of phase 2. And that is measured by direct and indirect costs, not headcount. So your principal investigator's primary employment, meaning more than half their time, must be with your company at award and during performance. The at award piece is really important. If your PI is not full-time, all you need to do when you submit your application is write a letter of commitment saying that your PI will become full-time or more than part-time, 20 plus hours a week typically, for the duration of the award. And you can put that into the application. For an STTR, you must formally partner with a university or nonprofit research institution. This institution performs at least 30% and your company at least 40%. The STTR fits when your technology has roots in the lab. One nuance for the SBIR fluent in the room: a component can approve a deviation from the work share in writing, but some components will not accept any deviation. For example, there's an Air Force opportunity that sets its own performance of work rules and its instruction for one of the direct phase 2. So the short of this is make sure that you're looking at the particular opportunity that you want to apply for, because there may be some adjustments there as well. So at the end of the day, majority of these topics are going to be SBIR, which is not going to allow for an STTR structure, meaning that you don't need and will not be able to have a university doing a majority of the work, or doing a lot of the work, I should say, in an SBIR. There are 7 particular topics that require the STTR, and in those topics, it's required that you have a nonprofit research organization or a university to go after that topic. So eligibility, this is really essential. I'm sure most of you guys are aware of this. There's one deviating factor from other agencies in how they use the SBIR program, but at a high level, you must be a United States for-profit small business with 500 employees or fewer. Counting affiliates, and more than half of the company must be owned and controlled by U.S. citizens or permanent residents. All the research and development happens in the United States, and the principal investigator's primary employment is with your company. Now, the part that matters most for venture-backed founders in this room, and where I want to be very precise, is that the General Department of War default is that firms majority owned by multiple venture capital, hedge funds, or private equity firms are not eligible. However, a specific component can authorize that, and it's pretty common within Department of War for this not to be an eligibility concern. So for most of the ones that we've looked through, check the specific topic to make sure and go through the specific components, but they will explicitly allow for VC, hedge funds, and PE majority-owned firms to be eligible, and most of the ones that we encounter do have this. So to answer the question, can a VC-backed startup apply? It depends on the component. Most commonly, we see that it is, but check the specific instructions before you submit an application. Separate from ownership, there is a national security gate you should know about. Every proposal goes through a foreign risk evaluation. This is probably a topic for a webinar at greater length later on, but this is something that's becoming a increasingly watched and pursued in something of focus for all funding agencies across the board. And it's something that your team needs to have a plan with in putting that together. So undisclosed foreign ties to a foreign country of concern, which the statutes in all of these opportunities name as China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Participation in a malign foreign talent recruitment program, or a venture investor with a foreign general partner in one of those countries. It is possible that will disqualify you and can deny an award on their own, regardless of how strong the technical proposal is. If you have any of these foreign disclosure concerns, the best plan of action is number one is to rid your company of those individuals that would cause that issue if you're still planning to apply, or to put risk mitigation plans into place. We work with a group called IP Talons, where they've been incredibly successful at about 100% success rate for risk mitigation plans for opportunities across National Institute of Health, Department of War, NSF, and other federal agencies. So again, a lot to dive into that. Happy to take questions on that. But at the end of the day, IP Talents is a group that we'd highly recommend that you work with to put risk mitigation strategies together. So this is a core part of what we check in a project assessment as our team does the evaluation before engagement. So let's go to the money side of this. There are two phases that we're discussing as these opportunities address. There is a phase 3, which I'll spend just a little bit of time talking about after this. But one important framing is that all of these individual topics are either going to be a phase 1 or direct to phase 2. There are some that will allow for a different pathway. Phase 1 is typically up to about $314,000. It depends on the particular opportunity you're pursuing. Some as low as $100,000, some as high as $300,000. But generally speaking, they're all trying to accomplish feasibility over a period of performance of about 6 to 12 months. And so each one of these are defined in the opportunity. The direct to phase 2 is typically up to about $2 million. This is where feasibility data has already been generated for the capabilities that are requested. And really, you're looking into actually building the solution for the commercial use case or for the defense mission need in particular. So generally speaking, it's about 24 months for phase 2. Phase 2, there's also the follow-on phase 2, which is kind of understood for all of these initial phase 1 applications that are out here and different opportunities that you would then move into phase 2. And generally speaking, each executive summary or each opportunity through DSIP is going to talk about the specifications required for phase 1, and then what they anticipate is going to be done through a future phase 2 award. On top of the award, you will have TABA and phase 2 enhancements. That's going to be particular to each opportunity, but generally speaking, it's about $6,500 in phase 1 and $50,000 in phase 2 for TABA. And this is general business assistance, where it can help with proposal writing for future phases. It can help with marketing in some cases. And so you can look through the TABA approved funding mechanisms and services that are done there. Before jumping in, actually, let me move to phase 3, because the intention of this program at the end of the day is for Department of War to work with small businesses that are providing these technology solutions that have been hyper-focused on defense mission needs. That's done through a phase 3 mechanism. So the intention is from start to finish, you do feasibility through phase 1, you optimize in phase 2, and then in phase 3, you're actually delivering in a procurement or service-based contract on an ongoing basis. Phase 3 is not a funded mechanism through the SBIR program, even though it's called a phase 3 SBIR. The reason that is the case is because your SBIR allows you to apply for phase 3 mechanisms across any federal agency, as long as you have a prior award where that technology has been developed. This is a hugely underutilized mechanism, where if you have a phase 1 or phase 2 award within the last 20 years, you are eligible for doing single source contracting with the government in surpassing or bypassing, I should say, the competitive bid process for any sort of contract that your company is well suited for within a federal agency. So for example, if I have an MRI technology that I've developed under, let's just say, an NIH grant, then I can go through the Veterans Affairs Administration, or the Department of War, and find a particular end user and customer for that and do business with them directly. When I go through the contracting officer, they're not asking for 5 or 6 different companies to bid against that same defense mission need, because I've already proven through my previous SBIR that I'm the best company to provide the solution. So happy to talk more about that later on through phase 3 mechanisms. But what I'm basically outlining here is that there is a general path to commercialization with Department of War, in particular where phase 3 is the end use. But if you have other technologies in phase 1 and phase 2 awards where your technology has already received that affirmation, then it's not required, and you can go through not a direct phase 3, but you can pursue phase 3 contracts if you have a commercial solution. So going back to release 5, the September 23rd deadline, registrations are a huge piece of this. So there are 4 registrations that you're going to need, 4 important pieces that you need to accomplish. None of them are instant. So as we get to, just as a sneak peek, what you should be doing between now and September 23rd, getting your registrations done is the top priority, because without these being in place, you will not be able to apply. So we have SAM.gov, which is the system for award management. It generates 2 things that you're going to need: your UEI, or unique identity ID, and your cage code. And the UEI is required before you can even register with the SBA. So validation typically takes anywhere from a couple of days to a few weeks. And so our encouragement is for you to start that early. Validation takes, so start that as quickly as possible. Number 2 is the SBA company registry, which allows you to, which gives you an SBC control ID that you must have to submit. The documents are explicit that SBIR.gov now uses this enhanced identity verification, that it cannot be expedited, and that you should be starting early on this process. So the one thing to keep in mind, September 23rd is about just over 5 weeks away at this point. It is possible for SAM registration to take up to 2 to 4 weeks. So get that done now. That way you at least have a shot on goal. Number 3 is DSIP itself. Individual accounts are authenticated through login.gov, and your firm needs a designated firm admin who sets the firm PIN and completes the firm level forms before anyone can submit a single proposal. DSIP, or the Department of War SBIR Innovation Portal, is also only accessible from inside the United States. Number 4, this is a little bit more of a complicated one that we can dive into maybe in a different webinar here, but the CMMC, each topic states a projected CMMC level. Typically, it's either level 1 or level 2. For example, the Air Force power switch topic has a level 2 self-assessment. This is highly focused on cybersecurity and making sure that the individual small business that's handling information from the government in a contract mechanism like this has proper cybersecurity parameters set up. And I won't dive into too much detail here, but essentially it's a cybersecurity maturity model certification, and it's a framework created by Department of Defense to make sure that a company doing business with Department of Defense or Department of War has adequate cybersecurity protections in place. And so there's a phase 1 or level 1 assessment that you can do if this solicitation requires, and a level 2 one as well. It's a little bit more stringent, and it's basically just making sure you have all those protections in place. So just know that if you are especially working in the artificial intelligence and machine learning or cybersecurity space, that CMMC requirement is going to be one that you're going to want to make sure you have ready to go before submission. I don't talk about it too much here in this presentation, but ITAR regulation is also a big one, where anyone working on specific projects that are ITAR regulated must be US citizens, and there's specific parameters on how the business builds its data infrastructure to be compliant with ITAR regulations. Not every solicitation is going to have that. In fact, a lot of the hardware solutions typically don't. But if you are working in software or doing data management, then ITAR regulation is pretty common. And so just to make sure that you have a plan to become ITAR regulated, or compliant, I should say, contingent upon receiving the award. So let's talk about this runway. So from today, we're roughly 6 weeks away from September 23rd. And our encouragement is to use this time well. Starting off with week 1 is pick your topic and confirm eligibility. So start the SAM.gov registration, the SBA company registration on the same day today would be great. The SBA identity verification in particular cannot be rushed, and both clocks run whether you are working or not. So weeks 2 or 3, lock in the substance and use your questions wisely. Again, you have up until the initial deadline when everything opens to submit and talk to the topic posters or direct face-to-face or over email, or however you decide to do that. But up until September 9th, you can submit questions and answers through DSIP. So make sure that that's being done, so that way you have all the clarification required. The real question deadline is September 9th, when DSIP topic Q&A closes, not the September 23rd close. So lock your technical approach. And if it is an STTR, STTR topic, get your research institution partner committed in writing. Weeks 4 and 5 are for writing, the technical volume, the cost volume. This can range anywhere from, I think the smallest we've seen through these is about 5. Normally it's about 10 pages for a phase 1, all the way up to about 20 plus pages for a phase 2 of technical material. They're going to have several major sections, which we'll get into here. Let's see here. So the main blockers are going to be registrations. There's also 2 on the back end of this, but the main sections for writing are going to be the technical volume, cost volume, commercialization strategy, and you'll also see the fraud, waste, and abuse training in volume 6 and 7, and foreign disclosure web form, because you cannot certify without these programs. So the final days are for compliance and formatting, not new ideas. So as you're working up into that September 23rd deadline, you want to certify and submit through DSIP. And our recommendation is to do it a full day early, because there are no late submissions. There are no alternative submissions. Yes, release 6 is going to be coming at the beginning of September, but the topics are going to be different. So if you see one of these topics that you are fit for, our encouragement is to make sure that you're fully set up to apply at the deadline or a day before. You should hear a selection or non-selection decision within about 90 days of the close of the award, and the award is targeted to be issued within about 180 days from submission. So lastly, before we move into Q&A, obviously this presentation is helpful for you guys to figure out, is there a fit? Is it worth your time and effort? If so, how do you go about it? If you're looking for assistance in doing this, maybe for the first time, or if you're running low on bandwidth and are looking for some support, that's what BW&CO is here for. So we are a full service grant writing firm, proposal writing firm, as these are also contracts that we're pursuing. And at the end of the day, we do 2 things. We help increase the likelihood of success, and we help save you a significant amount of time. Typical success for phase 1 is across different agencies, right around 10%. With our 35% success rate, you're looking at just over tripling the national average with using a firm like ours. We also are navigating these on a regular basis for our clients, meeting with TPOCs, end users, and customers, so we can better understand the defense mission needs for these future applications. We have about 50 PhDs on our team in different areas of expertise located here in the US to help write the technical portions of these applications, as well as defense strategists to navigate meeting with end users and customers within different groups within the military to ensure that the capabilities are clear about what you're pursuing. So if any of this is of interest, you're welcome to reach out to me directly to schedule a meeting. You can also use the meeting link in the comments here in Zoom, and also linked on LinkedIn, where this will be cross-posted for you guys to be able to book a call with our team to learn more about our services. At a high level, what we're going to do is provide a free project assessment, which if you look at our website, you'll see links to go ahead and submit that information. Because at the end of the day, before we engage, we want to make sure that you are pursuing the right opportunity, and that you have the capabilities to pursue that opportunity, and that it makes sense, and that there's not another opportunity that you're not currently considering that really is the best fit. Generally speaking, there are groups out there that will say that there are way more opportunities than there really are, and other groups that will say the only opportunity is through an NSF or NIH grant. Our framework and philosophy is generally in the middle of the road, where we are saying that there are opportunities that are out there, not as many as you might think, but let's do a fair search to make sure that we are looking for the best suited opportunity for you to pursue. So with that said, happy to go into a time of some questions and answers. For those that are of you that are on LinkedIn, I will go ahead and address those. I'm also going to adjust my screen here so that I can see questions from others that may be on LinkedIn as well. So let's see here. My company is an LLC and was just registered in the state, IRS, and SAM. What else is needed for successful government contract applications? That's good. So if you're registered in SAM, that's really the biggest piece. As I just went over on the page, I think this question was submitted near the beginning of the meeting, there are those 4 registrations that are required. I'll go back to that slide here because I think that might be a common one. Yes, so you should be able to see this slide here to go over the specific registrations that are required. So Great. The next one is there any CMMC level requirements? If yes, is it required at the time of application or at the time of the award? So our current understanding is that this is for CMMC, it's required before you submit your application to make sure that you are compliant. Level 1 assessments are relatively easy. I think the total number of questions in that is, I don't have it right in front of me, but believe it's not more than 15. For level 2 requirements, it is definitely a little bit more of an ordeal. Let me pull up my notes here, make sure I've got this. Yeah. So I don't have my notes up here, but that's a good question. CMMC, most of these from what we've seen are going to be a level 2 self-assessment, and there is a score that you'll get on the back end to ensure that you're ready, but it is going to be due at the time of submission. Can non-US companies apply? The answer is directly no. You have to be a for-profit entity, fewer than 500 employees, as is listed here, and primarily owned by U.S. citizens and/or permanent residents to be eligible to apply. Do you mention U.S. citizens? Are green card also eligible? So yes, if you're considered a permanent resident, then you would be eligible to apply for this. And in the same question here, is there any of the NDA? Is there an NDA of sharing the concept for review? If you're talking about our services, if you were to meet with BW&CO and go over the technology at a high level, yes, we're typically happy to sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement for you guys to be able to discuss the product freely, especially before we go into the review process. Okay. This question, what is DSIP? That's a great question. I'll go ahead and pull this up here. So DSIP is the Department of War SBIR Innovation Portal, and you'll see all of these topics posted here in the topics Q&A, as well as documents and instruction. So if you go to DOD SBIR STTR.mil, you'll go to this website and see DSIP here. If you are looking for information around these topics at a high level, make sure I'm sharing the right screen. You'll see this is our website where you'll see the free project assessment where you can fill that out here. You'll also see executive summaries for all of the topics that were previously listed in the technology areas as well. You can also take these topics, put them into DSIP to see additional component requirements and instructions. But as you're doing a high-level review of your fit within these focus, this is going to be the most time-efficient way for you to validate that. Okay, good questions. All right, I think I've answered all of those questions that have come in, unless I'm missing any. So again, as you are looking at this opportunity, my encouragement to you would just be to ensure that you are eligible, that you find a topic that is well suited for your technology to apply, and then pursue the application from there. If you're looking to speak with our team about pursuing these opportunities, you can go to the Release website here and schedule a free call with our team to go over the opportunities as well as our services. And wish you all the best of luck as you pursue these. If you're looking at this and saying, well, this is actually less of a fit than I thought it was, happy to have a call with you about different mechanisms through broad agency announcements, other CSOs, or IDIQs that might be available for you to pursue, consortiums for you to join as well, to pursue government contracting at a high level. So again, my name is Robert Wegner, Chief Revenue Officer for BW&CO. We look forward to doing work with you here in the future. Wish you all the best of luck.